Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill. Joining me today are Graham Noble, Dave Patterson, Andrew Moran, and Michelle White. And this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Tijuana, which is just across the border from San Diego, lit up with riots and violence after the death of cartel boss Nemesio Rubén Oseguera Cervantes, or El Mencho. He was killed. That's what happened. Cartel violence exploded across 20 of Mexico's 31 states. You see, El Mencho was the most wanted longtime leader of the world's most powerful cartel, Jalisco New Generation. He was important in the trade. That's why everybody's mad. For people on the border states, this is dicey. For those who think vacationing in a fancy resort will keep them safe, those people are delusional. And for those Americans in Mexico, hey, well, good luck getting out. It's dicey there too. What can I say? Dave, I can't keep up with all the stuff that's going on. What is the U.S.'s responsibility here?
Well, I'm not sure I'd use the word responsibility. In this particular case, the U.S. was involved in gathering and sharing intelligence that included providing apparently a detailed targeting package for El Mencho. And they went on to subsequently, who was subsequently killed on February 22nd. So evidently the intelligence was good. But, since the Trump administration has identified cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a greater effort across a wide range of U.S. law enforcement and military organizations, it's beginning to make inroads to root out and engage these cartels, where in the past it hadn't been as enthusiastic about doing that, but now it has this license to work diligently with the Mexican government, Colombian government, to root out and engage, as I said, these cartels. This time, notable organizations, I think, that participated to that point were the Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel. It's a newly formed military-led task force that is under the command of U.S. Northcom, and Northcom provides oversight in the Joint Interagency Task Force. Though we don't know what the specifics are, and they just aren't available in terms of how many other agencies were involved. You could anticipate that the Drug Enforcement Agency, FBI, and CIA no doubt played some roles, but it seems to me that Mexico and the United States, despite all the rhetoric, in the airways, is working more closely together to actually take on the cartels, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, cartels have grown in membership. They've grown geographically, globally, militarily, and across various markets. I mean, you can cut the head off a snake, a new snake will show up. And they don't historically operate in just drugs. It's not just drugs, Graham. So can they reestablish?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And you're correct. It is like kind of cutting the head. It's like the seven-headed or nine-headed
Hydra.
The Hydra.
I can't remember how many heads the Hydra had anyway, but all those heads. It is. And of course, these cartels over the years, even just over the last, say, 40 years, different cartels have come into, have grown up, become powerful, and then faded away, and new ones have replaced them. And here's the thing about President Trump, essentially, if you like, blurring the lines between cartels and terrorists. It's entirely appropriate because any and every terrorist organization pretty much that has ever existed anywhere in the world also participates in a certain amount of criminal activity, criminal enterprise, whether it's, human trafficking, drugs, prostitution, bribery, extortion, all these kind of things. Terrorists do that. Terrorists involve themselves in criminal activity in order to fund their causes. And by the same token, transnational criminal organizations, including the South and Central American cartels, they will actually commit acts of terrorism in order to further their goal, which is, in their case, it's simply to make as much money as possible. But they will assassinate politicians, local officials, senior law enforcement officials. They will terrorize entire cities or entire towns. They will even sometimes, if it gets the message across, will commit, the mass murder of civilians. So the terrorists are also criminal organizations, and the criminal organizations are not above resorting to terrorism to further their goals. So you can lump the Sinaloa cartel into the same exploding boat as Hamas, if you want to, because they ultimately have different agendas, but they have a lot of the same methods. And so, no, it's not just about drugs. It's about all of the criminal activity you could imagine, a wide range of things. And it would be so much easier to deal with the cartels if all they did was drugs. But that's not what they do. And the thing is, if you cut off one avenue of, let's call it avenue of income for them, avenue of generation of revenues, they'll just find another one. So there's not necessarily any way to completely destroy these organizations ever, but there's a lot of things you can do in order to keep them, kind of restrain them quite significantly. And as Dave touched upon there, the fact that now these cartels are considered terrorist organizations opens up a whole new avenue of resources for the US government to go after them. So, I personally think that's a good thing.
I don't think war on drugs, we're never, I don't care who it is, we're never going to stop people from finding and taking drugs. So, personally, I think drug users could stop or find help. It's kind of a choice. But Michelle, do we think that this one avenue might be drying up, the drug avenue in the cartels?
No, but I'd like to add on to what he said, if I could, about the definition of terrorism. And if you're creating terror in the people that you're ravaging and stealing from or killing, then that's a terrorist. So I think it's a very accurate description of cartels and drug dealers. And I don't think there's a blurring of the line. I think it's very clear. But to answer your question, I think, are you asking me if we should legalize drugs?
A lot of people think it's a good idea.
No, I don't. I don't believe we should waver on morality just to make under the assumption that that's somehow going to kill these cartels in the black market. I think there'll always be that. But no, in the states that have had legalization of marijuana, there've been a lot of bad things happening, not just to the drug community, but it's almost, before anything else, a desensitizes the community to how bad it really is. And and then how are you teaching your children, oh, this is bad to do, but the government is saying it's okay, and then shops all over the place.
Well, it's the same thing with cigarettes or alcohol, isn't it?
Right. Well, no, one kills people. Cigarettes and alcohol over time will kill you, but people die from drugs. Sometimes on their first time. Fentanyl kills. How many reports did we hear over the last year?
I know, but you've got the FDA that would be involved if it was legalized, so everything would have to go through a process there. Of course, government extra, but
right.
Why should we look to the government for any moral?
Exactly. Why should we look to the government for anything? But it's all about addiction, and they can seek help if they want it. They don't. You can't.
I think it's a choice.
It is a choice. You can't force it on people, but I don't think you then make it easier for everyone to get it by legalizing it. It has a whole downstream of bad effects on on the community, and I don't agree with it. Most of all, it's the morality issue, but then it turns into other issues. So no, I think that's the wrong way about it. But I don't know the answer, because these clinics and rehabilitation centers exist and people don't use them. You can't force people to go into rehab. You can't force them to. They have to want it, and
Yeah. You can't force them to take drugs either. So
right, right. But they have to want it, and it's a choice both ways.
all right, Andrew. So, we brought this up. Let's say for grins and giggles that the U.S. legalizes all class 1 narcotics. I mean, there'd be a lot of random happy people roaming around, but what kind of money will that generate in taxes?
Well, excuse me, you saw this in Colorado shortly after they legalized marijuana. There was a dramatic increase in revenue, and then over time, it actually started decreasing as there were substitution effects. There was oversupply of the product, lowering prices. There was industry competition from other states, but there was also a study conducted by the Cato Institute, I think in 2010, and they estimated that legalizing all drugs would bring in about $50 billion of revenue. And then you have enforcement savings from, the prisons and the courts. And that would that would save about $40 billion. So overall, you have about $100 billion in revenues from from legalizing drugs. But as Thomas Wall taught us, everything has trade-offs.
Sure.
So you have the substitution effects. You legalize, heroin, whatever the case. So people will buy that heroin, but then there'll be a decline in other parts of the marketplace. So you're seeing this in real world now. So especially the young generation. The young generation will do weed, but they won't drink alcohol. And I have to push back on what of this conversation about seeking the government's approval for anything. As Sarah pointed out, drugs, alcohol kills you, cigarettes kill you, fast food kills you, chips, soda pop. There's a barrage of things that can kill us. And the point about the government says it's okay to do this, although it's bad. That's a family thing. That is a personal thing. That is up to individuals, and it's not up to the state to determine what is right or what is wrong. It's always the individual. I can't stand the idea of government dictating this, dictating that. Can't say this, can't do that. Bothers me relentlessly. So the economics of it, revenues will probably spike first, but then probably go down. And then on the political side of it, government bad. Don't tell you what to do. Hope that sums up my position.
All right. So there's really no way to get out of this, is there? They've cartels have expanded into places we don't probably even know about. They can be hurt a little bit, like this last taking out the head of the snake, but the new snake is going to show up. A scrape on the knee isn't going to hurt them. Thanks for watching. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. And stop by to see our new aggregate polling operation, The Public Square. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today to get your fix of free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com.